Welcome to the Oil and Gas Report, brought to you by Katch. I'm your host, Rob Hislop. We have moved all our equipment out of our Edmonton-based studio and have headed over to Vancouver. We're in this city for the Globe 2012 conference. Now, in case you're not familiar with it, it's something that's actually been around for quite a while. It started back in 1990 and goes every 2 years. What it does is it brings together leaders of industry, all sorts of people from various industries, and they're talking about trying to make the world a better place. We've been fortunate enough to land a lot of interviews, corporate executives, international agencies, urban leaders, financial executives as well, government policymakers, as well as environmental industry executives. Of course, being from Alberta, we've got a lot of oil sands representation as well. And again, this is the Globe 2012 conference. It's held in March in Vancouver. The theme this year, building a sustainable economy for the 21st century. Joining us right now on the Oil and Gas Report is Phil Fontaine, former chief of the Assembly of First Nations. Thanks very much for your time today. I've seen you wandering around this Globe 2012 trade show here. What do you think of the event?
I'm very impressed. It's a big deal, and the trade show and the conference is bringing together a pretty diverse community, and I'm pleased to say that First Nations and Aboriginal people seem to be here in good numbers.
When you have been asked to speak at this event as well, you've got a session that you're going to be tackling. What is that going to be about?
Well, we're going to be talking about business, energy, the environment, and in my own situation, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Aboriginal or First Nations issues, and so I will hopefully be able to add to the debate and the discussion.
What is the First Nations position on this? I mean, we're hearing stuff now about Northern Gateway and how there could be some issues with that. What is your concern? Do the First Nations people not want to see a pipeline, or are there certain guarantees that need to be put in when it comes to the environment?
Well, I mean, I should make this one note. I am a senior advisor to Norton Rose, a significant law firm, a global law firm, and a major practice in energy and mining. Special advisor at RBC, Trans-Canada Pipeline, and I run my own consulting and mediation company, and so I interact quite often on matters related to oil and gas and financing of oil and gas, but more importantly, the engagement of First Nations in the business, whether we're talking about pipelines or the oil sands or mining in Northern Ontario or Northern British Columbia, and I'm mindful, and people should be also, that we're a diverse community. We're 633 First Nation communities, and we occupy land and territories from coast to coast to coast, and we speak 55 Indigenous languages. Our histories are all unique to our communities and our regions and our territories, and so our perspectives are also unique. But one thing is clear, that as I've traveled and across the country meeting with our people, one thing is absolutely clear: our people are not anti-development. But it's true as well that every community has the right to say no to development. And so we've come to the point where, given court decisions, that speak to very strongly and positively and clearly about the duty to consult and accommodation, the United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous Peoples, particularly as it relates to free, prior, and informed consent, and the understanding that's developed in the corporate sector or the corporate community that, if good development is going to take place, sustainable development, responsible development, whether we're talking about mining or pipelines or oil and gas, that we have to deal. In fact, it's absolutely necessary and essential that these business interests engage with our people in a very respectful way, and that they shouldn't treat us differently than they would treat people in China or India or wherever they see opportunities. Because one of the essential considerations when you go, say, to China is you want to know
who the people are.
Who the people are, their cultures, their traditions, their history, because that, if you do that, you have a better chance of creating success. The same should hold true for engagement here in Canada regarding the First Peoples.
And would I be right in suggesting that hasn't always been the case?
That hasn't always been the case. It was really a situation where First Nations people were an afterthought, right? And too often they were seen as an impediment to development. And we know that's not true.
When you look at it, I mean, and this is speaking in a generality, but you think of First Nations people as caring about the land, and which might be as big a miscalculation as thinking all Canadians play hockey. But there is that sort of symbolism there. Do you think that industry, oil for Alberta especially, do you think that they have been working with a sustainable model, or do you think that perhaps they haven't been very good in the past and they might be on the road to changing?
Well, the environment has become central to development. Right? In Canada, we have witnessed the growing concern about climate change, and there's, I don't think, any doubt that First Nations have, or Indigenous people have a unique relationship to the land, the environment, water, and that any development has to be mindful of those important considerations, if I can put it that way. And I think it's encouraging that there's now this greater attention placed on environmental considerations, the relationship with Indigenous people to the land, and that any decision around resource development, resource projects, mining, oil and gas pipelines, and logging, hydro development projects. Our people have to be central to the decisions around these important projects.
Do you think that what's good for your people is good for the country?
Absolutely. There's no question that we can't be ignored or dismissed, and that we need to be engaged in a very serious way, and that we ought to be considered as integral to economic development, business development, wealth creation, resource development. And that the point that was made, that if it's good for us, it's going to be good for the country, right? And we don't want to be seen as an impediment to development, but neither should we be completely disregarded or dismissed.
Phil, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We've been chatting with Phil Fontaine here on the Oil and Gas Report, brought to you by Katch.